Welcome to the VLS Illustrator tutorial. Today we're going to show you how to take a common image, turn it into a vector, and then print it with the VLS 350. So the first thing you want to do is to create a new file. Then you can select really anything you want as long as it's either paper stock or poster, something that with good dimensions. With the laser printer, you have a dimensional width of 24 inches by 12, so it's best to set everything to inches. And also in landscape, and then hit create. So now you can draw your design, or if you just want to pull an image, which we're going to do here, you can simply just go to File, Place, it's best to choose either a JPEG or a PNG. I've had the best luck so far with JPEG files. They just are a lot easier to deal with and a lot easier to trace. So once you have your image fully placed, you're going to need to select it if not already selected. Then for the most part you'll probably end up in Essentials, and all you need to do is just go down to tracing. And so this is going to give you your full menu. But before you do anything else, I recommend setting your Illustrator file into inches. So we're going to go do that. Since I've already selected everything, we don't have to worry about it. So once you've done that, now we're going to have to turn it into a vector image. So once everything's been set, you can go to Image Trace. I like to do black and white logo. It just makes the outlines easy. Now you can experiment with the rest of these, but you may have to do a lot of editing to the lines, because the algorithms basically make lines throughout the photo, but depending on your selection, it may overlap, and you may not be able to see those overlaps until you print it. And what will happen is the printer will start to recut those overlappings and overlayers. So you got to be careful of that when you're printing. So now that we have that, in order to turn it into a vector image, you need to hit expand. And so once you hit expand, you have a full vector image that you can fully manipulate. Now the next thing you want to do before you can mess with anything separately is you want to ungroup it. You can either hit Control G or right click and hit ungroup. And right now, each piece is individual. Let me try that again. No, it's already ungrouped. So you can see outlines and whatnot have moved, and the paths are individual. So the laser has three different options. It can do a full raster, which is etching. It can do vector marking, which is like etching, but instead of removing material, it dimples the material. And then of course there's vector cutting, which removes material. Now, these are all the specific settings for each type of print, but I'll go through the steps on how to do each one individually, and then at the end I'll combine all three. So we first want to do a full raster or a full edge. So once you have your vector image all set up and ungrouped, you just need to select it, and then you can adjust your line color and then your infill, which I'm going to leave white. And so everything that's black here will be etched. All white is ignored, so remember that. Now, if you decide to use a different color or a different color scheme or wide range of colors, it's going to turn that into a black and white gradient. And so from all the way from white to all the way to black, it's going to turn it into a grayscale gradient. So you won't get a full dark etch on some places that are lighter or darker. So just be aware of that. If you want a full solid etch, just do full black. And then as far as your stroke, it doesn't have to be really any particular value. So now, if you want to vector mark everything, you can just again select it. And instead of black, you want to do RGB blue. And so now all these outlines are going to be vector marked instead of etched, which again is very similar. It just dimples the material with little dots instead of removing it. But you have to remember, in order to do this, you have to set your line stroke to 0.001 inches or less, or it's just going to etch it. And you would just go here and change that setting. Let me do that again. Make sure you have it selected. It's fickle like that. And then you'll barely be able to see it, but it's there. Red's really difficult to see depending on some screens, but once you change the line stroke, it's still there. Trust me. And then now for the vector cut, again we select it and we just change it to red. So as you can see, each setting. Now if we wanted to do all three, since this is all ungrouped, what I'm going to do first is set everything to raster, just to give it an even baseline. So that's set. That's good. So I'm going to do the insides. All those are going to be etched. I'm just going to leave black. Then I want my outline of the star to be blue. Then I want my overall outline here to be red. And then with the star line, make sure you set your stroke accordingly. Same thing with your cutting path. And so now what will happen is the VLS will first etch everything, then vector mark it, and then lastly cut it out. So once you're done from here and you're ready to print, you're going to go to File, Print, and then you're going to select the VLS 350. Then you're always going to go to Setup, and you're going to go to Preferences, and then it'll take you to the database where you can set up your system settings, your manual controls, in your imaging. And once you've set everything, you can hit print, print again. So once you've got everything situated in the way you want it, you're going to go to File, Print. You're going to choose your printer, and you're going to go to Setup. You're going to hit Preferences, and then now you can choose your material here. You can choose the material thickness, your units, your quality, your print starting direction, and then your percentage of raster strength, vector strength, and whatnot. And then this is an even more detailed setting, and this is only if you really want to experiment. But if you're doing basic prints, you won't really have to worry about this much. And then once you've done everything, selected what you want, hit Apply, hit OK, print, print, then it's going to send your image directly to the UCP software. And here is your print. So I always recommend checking your settings first to make sure everything's correct. On another note, it's important, unless you're going to level your bed manually, you'll want to go to System, and right here it'll say Auto Z. Make sure you select that if you don't want to manually set up the laser. Thank you for watching this Illustrator tutorial.